Welcome to the presentation. I'm glad you could join us. Today we're going to talk about why Jesus was nailed to the cross. And it's a very obvious reason. And it's a psychological reason, as most superstitions are based on the psychological makeup of human beings. You see, the priest and the preachers, they found a way to not work. They built a church. They don't have to work. You go out and work, and you give 10% of your labor to your priest or your preacher. That's why the Catholics have this Vatican made of gold, and gold all around, because they didn't work, but they got thousands and then millions of people to go out and work and give them at the most 10%. And many people give more. Some people give their whole life savings to the church after they die, instead of leaving it to their children even. So this is built in, that these people didn't have to go and work in the field, go work hard labor for their money. So they had time. Leisure time and this leisure time was called doing God's work, because they roamed around the village. They roamed around the village and watched human behavior. They talked to people. Let me talk to you. And they found out what kind of talk was persuasive. They found out what worked on people. That's what con people do. They start out young, maybe, and they start conning people. And along the way, like any good con man would do, you learn. You learn from your mistakes, and you move on. Move on to the next person and the next person, and you play a numbers game. And if you talk to enough people, you're going to learn the psychology of people. If you watch people, you can learn the psychology. You go to a restaurant, you just listen. You drink coffee, maybe, just coffee, and you listen to people around you talking, and you learn what the psychology of people are, how people's psychology is made up by paying attention to people in restaurants and other public places. The preacher or the priest who sits in a park, they're there observing and learning human behavior. And after a while, they wrote this stuff down, because preachers and priests were the first people to be taught to read, because they served the king. And so they went out and they were spies for the king. They observed these behaviors. They wrote them, and they kept it in their mind, and as soon as they could write it down, they wrote it down. And a lot of times, of course, as people got used to these preachers and priests in secular places, they started writing things down. And, what are you writing down? I'm just writing down my sermon, making a draft of my sermon for this Sunday. But what it really was they was writing down everything everyone was saying and doing, how everyone was reacting, studying the farm animals. The farmer studies the cow and the pig and the chickens, and they learn their behavior so they can get them to be happy and get them to eat and get them to grow. They want them to grow big, grow healthy. So when they slaughter them, it's good meat. So they learned what to say and what that effect was on people. And they found that one way to get people to empathize with you, to get people to care about you, to get people to show compassion, was to tell them a sob story. I'm down on my luck. I lost everything. Someone, come into my house and stole all my belongings, and I'm now in poverty and I haven't eaten in 3 or 4 days. So someone hears that and says, "Oh my goodness, let me buy you a meal." And this guy who hasn't eaten in 3 or 4 days, and he only eats twice a week, and it's been going on for a year, but yet he weighs 300 pounds. He weighs 300 pounds, but supposedly he hasn't been able to eat but maybe 1 or 2 meals a week, barely surviving. But you can become blinded by the fact that this guy's a fat ass, and you concentrate on the sob story. So Jesus was nailed to the cross because this gets you to feel sorry for Jesus. You feel his pain. The Passion of Christ was designed to show as much blood and gore and pain that Jesus went through. And you come out of the movie theater crying your eyes out. Not only crying your eyes out, but bawling. You're crying so much. The tears are just flowing. Any movie does this. They'll put the hero in a situation, and it's a movie, but the tears start flowing, and falling off your cheek, and you're wiping your eyes, and this is just a movie. It's not real. You know that the actor's not really feeling this stuff. So this is why Jesus was nailed to the cross in the story, in the myth. Get you to feel sorry for Jesus. It's all theater. It's all designed to make you emotional, to throw out rational, reasonable thinking, to get you not to question. You're so overwhelmed with the man dying on the cross that you say, "Oh my goodness," or perhaps even, "Oh my God." And you're crying, and you're taking it into your heart. Just like the episode where Lassie was shot and wounded, or your TV hero looked like they died, or perhaps in a movie. Has anyone seen Old Yeller, about a boy and his dog? The ending had me weeping. And this movie is just a movie. Yet I was weeping at the end. Get you to sympathize with the character in the fiction. This is why Harry Potter was battling Voldemort, and why you were on the edge of your seat when you were reading it or watching the movie. Harry Potter and Voldemort doesn't exist. They're characters in a work of fiction. In the old times, which means my youth, I'm 61 years old, we would go to the movies. And back then, when I was 6 or 7 years old, 8, 9, you could go to the movies and watch the movie over and over again. You could stay. You didn't have to leave at the end. They just kept showing the movie. It would end, and then they would rewind the film, because it was actual film with a projector in the back. While they were rewinding it, you would go to the bathroom. You would go maybe get a Coke and some popcorn and reload for the next viewing. But you already seen the movie, but you watched it again. And parents would, on Saturday, just drop you off there at the movies and let you watch and let you stay there for 4 or 5 hours. It was a babysitting service. So you would stay there and you would watch the movie 2 or 3 times. And as the kids grew tired of the movie, we'd start talking and playing, and most of the adults didn't come to see the movie until the afternoon, after most of the children had cleared out. But when you watch these movies, even in black and white, you would cry when someone died, be happy when something good happened to the character. Even in while watching the movie in black and white, which they were, some of them were, you would get connected. Even though the movie was in black and white, a surefire clue that it wasn't real, but you got engrossed into the movie. Your brain is designed to just block out everything else and take what it's seeing. It's called suspension of belief. You don't question, well, this isn't real. It's black and white. Life is in color. You you just block that out. And everything that happened on the screen to your mind while you focused on that screen was real. And you could come out of the movie with your brain and look at the person sitting next to you and say something to the person next to you, and then look back at the screen and be immediately embedded into the story again. That's how your mind works. So Jesus was put on the cross to elicit an emotional state within you. And Mel Gibson knows this. Mel Gibson is a movie maker. I haven't seen The Passion of Christ, but people who have seen it, have told me about it. And Mel Gibson knows that if he can, with current technology, show every drop of blood that fell on the character's head, will elicit emotion from you. And since he's trying to say this myth, this work of fiction, is real, he knows that a certain percentage of those watching the movie will be believers when they leave the movie. And if they are believers, well, his job is done. They are going to be super believers when they leave the movie after he's shown this Jesus in such pain and torture. Now, the fact that this motherfucker is going to come back in the myth of Jesus Christ, they don't tell you the rest of it. He rises from the dead and is going to come back one day and slaughter men, women, children, babies, pregnant women if you don't bow down to him. That's what this motherfucker is going to do. But he's faking all this pain and suffering and sorrow so that when he does return, or someone claiming to be him returns, you'll feel sorry for him. You'll let him into your house, and while he's in your house, him and his angels, henchmen, goons, him and his goons, once you let him into your house, he's going to slaughter your whole family if you won't kiss his ass. That's the real truth of Jesus Christ. And they keep you focused on him on the cross. Keep you focused on his supposed pain and suffering. And who did he do this all for? Why, for you, of course. First of all, you gotta be a sick motherfucker to have someone come to you and say, I'm gonna torture you, or I'm gonna torture your father. And you say, torture my father for my sins. Torture my sister or my younger brother for my sins. What kind of person are you that first of all asks or accepts someone else being tortured for your sins? What kind of person are you that thinks being a human being is a sin in the first place? What kind of sicko are you? So, when I drive by a church, I know where the sickos are. And I know where the Pharisees are. And they meet every Sunday to plot what they're going to do to the rest of us. Come the day that the New World Order presents their big brother, Jesus, calling him Jesus the Christ. All the right people will say, yes, this is Jesus. All the right people. The Pope will say that this is the return of Jesus. The leaders of all the other religions will say, yes, this is Jesus. They will say it, or they will be killed. Perhaps this is why we changed popes. First of all, that we changed popes because the pedophile news wasn't going away. Maybe now the pedophile news will go away. What the Catholic Church has really been up to. But when they get in trouble, they remind you of the suffering of Jesus. And you, like a character in a movie that has been shot and bleeding to death, the hero. And you know that 99 times out of 10, in a movie, the hero doesn't die. In this case, in the case of the theatricals of Jesus, of the Jesus myth, of the Jesus work of fiction, he dies, but he lived again. Oh, my goodness. What a work of bullshit. So there you have it. They put Jesus on the cross so that you would look up at the cross and weep and say, I can't think my way out of this one. It would be against God to think and ask for evidence, verifiable evidence that this happened or that happened and that this religion is real. Because look at what this poor Jesus done for me. And if someone dying in your place is your idea of justice, well, you're just sick enough to be a Pharisee Christian. Until next time, this is atheist John, saying thank you for listening to the Godless Anti-Theist, presenting some truth so that you might find the abundant opportunity all around you to be good, for goodness sake.